Hello, I'm the Eternal Newbie. The extra L is for lethal, as in sometimes the most surprising things can be lethal to characters and even gaming groups. Today's story is about how a totally baffling DM totally ganked a character in a rather uninventive way, which quickly led to the dissolution and dissolution of a gaming group. It's a long one today, so let's get to it. A few months ago, I was part of a wonderful virtual D&D 5e game that had a sudden turn at the very end. The participants were the couple, two players that came as a unit, Warlock and Sorcerer, Rocky, don't remember his class, but he threw rocks, the Oni, Warlock Barbarian, my character's bestie and a nice player, the DM, a random guy I found on a forum, and me with my character, the Goat, a small goat woman and bard. We were 5th or 6th level. We had been playing for a couple of months by the time our final game came around. Honestly, everything had been normal and things progressing as usual. I felt like we kind of sped through any NPC or social interactions, and I started to realize the rotation was to go to the castle, get a quest, minimal dialogue, then go do a dungeon for the session. It's not my favorite way to play, but the players really made up for it. We had wonderful dialogue between each other, and it seemed like the DM was cool to let it happen. I admit I felt pride in the positive attention from the party with how much they loved the Goat. Becoming the party mascot naturally felt great, and I performed my role proudly. All that to say, everyone loved having me there, and specifically the character I performed brought a lot of energy to the table. Well, after being rushed out of the castle again, the party made their ways to some ruins for the next leg of our adventure. We hadn't met any definitive big bad evil guy yet, but it seemed like we were getting close with how dangerous things were getting. Oh, there were a lot of close calls during that session. There were giant centipedes hiding in marshy waters with a deadly venom. The party managed to resist or avoid most of the bites, just narrowly, but our NPC follower wasn't so lucky and looked rough for the rest of the dungeon. We fought through demons and centipedes, had the ground crumble beneath our feet to lava pits, and defeated a shambling bones infused with hydrated plant life before we even reached the entrance of the ruin's interior. The entire time I felt rather proud of myself. I had been doing quite well in maintaining the health of the party and preventing multiple downs or even deaths. In the last battle with the shambling bones, I had even prevented the Oni from going down twice. In character, the party was feeling rough and beaten, but we still had to progress to the ruins and find our MacGuffin. We took a moment to sit down and plan/recoup. We even had some cute roleplay moments. Eventually, the DM had voices whispering to the couple, egging them to go into the ruin and interrupt our short rest. We went in and had to fight back against supposedly respawning ghosts. That is to say, we were being encouraged not to take a rest even though our characters were knocking on death's door. So we just kept going. We fight through and get to a room with 4 statues. Our poor NPC friend, who I had been literally keeping above water in the last room, was laid down to rest while the venom kept getting worse. We tried to short rest again and got through it, but the DM kept insisting something was coming and that something was going to happen. But I think our party agreed we'd just have to deal with it because we couldn't keep going without the rest. The DM declares that after an hour of rest, a wind spear guardian of some sort attacks us, telling us it must protect the prisoners. Those statues were actually the petrified bodies of some world-ending threats apparently. And our MacGuffin wasn't even in this room. We tried to insist we weren't trying to free the prisoners, but the spirit attacked anyway. After preventing another death with a healing spell, the DM declared one of our party members gets thrown into the statues by the spirit and it lands in the water, unleashing a 12-foot tall Oni, who then gave the rest of his pals a soak. At this point, I'm getting a little baffled by the turn of events. Yeah, I'm having a hard time following it myself. Anyway, a fight breaks out, but the spirit abandons the fight and leaves us with the world-ending threats. The NPC is knocked down into death saving throws. Oh wait! No he wasn't! The moment he went down, the venom activated and turned him into a faceless, mindless demon of sorts. Really messed up stuff. The newly discovered big bad evil guy decides we're not worth the slaughter, and even professes to be interested in the Oni in our party. They left, and our party tried to pick up what scraps we had left to ourselves. The tension between characters is high. Some scathing role-playing words are exchanged, and eventually characters decide it's best to keep going. Everybody was having a great time, or so I thought. And I was so pleased with how the narrative between characters was developing. We started exploring the lower area. A man offering a puzzle shows up, and we do his puzzle, and we move forward. I think it was, here's the key, or you could take this poop bag. But the real key is in the poop bag or something. Ah, the old key or the poop bag trick. Newbies will take the key, but anyone who's in the know knows we're going to get the bag of poop each and every time. Just think of all the things you can do with a bag of poop. Like, light it on fire. Or throw it at somebody. Or search it for keys. The possibilities are endless. I do get the feeling things are going to be more on track from here on out, if you get my meaning. Choo choo. But I'm sure it will all work out in the end. It's not like the DM has some evil and incredibly arbitrary plan in motion to kill off a beloved character based on nothing more than a failed save or two. We keep going and eventually get to a part of the ruin that's crumbled into a cliff face. But the DM says my character notices a footpath in the cliff face that my little goat could traverse to get to a separate part of the hall. I take note of it but decide I'd rather wait for the party to be together first. Some conversations happen between characters before the DM insists to me that I should take a look at the separate area. So I hop over. The one other person ready to follow me gets blocked off instantly by a sudden appearance of a solid wall. I assume the DM knows what he's doing. The goat meets an old man who's willing to speak with her. He invites her into a room with history etched into the pillars. I only get as far as being shown the pillars before we are taken back to the rest of the party. They continue down the hall into the next puzzle before the DM comes back to me. He asks me if the goat will have been talking to this old man for a minute. I say, sure. I guess she talked to him for a minute or two. The DM asks me to make a Constitution save and a Wisdom save. My first not so great rolls of the night gave me double sevens. The DM declares my character is dead. He then explains the person I'm talking to was casting a spell on me that kills a person instantly if the caster speaks to them for 1 minute. I don't know how else to describe his voice other than seemingly giddy. Certainly more energetic than it had been all night. He gets ready to move on, but everybody was stunned silent. I think he realized something in the middle of saying I could make a new character. He pivoted and said I could start making death saving throws. The whole time I'm making them, he says nobody in the party knows where I am and nobody can physically get to me. Well, I missed 2, made 2, then the final one was a miss. I could almost hear the DM exhale before he said, all right, you're welcome to start making a new character and we can reintroduce you next session. I say, okay, that's all right. Initially, I just felt bad and defeated. Like I was ready to be a big girl and accept the loss of a loved character, but something just didn't feel right about any of that. I spoke up again a couple of seconds later and said, wait, no, that's not all right. I don't like what just happened and I feel like I didn't get a choice in it. The DM told me what happened was fair. He didn't know what I was talking about and that he'd let me roll, so it's fine. But I wasn't taking any of those as valid excuses for just declaring my character dead and locking me off from the rest of the party to make sure I'd die. I told the call that I'd have to go think, but that I'd talk to them later. Well, the moment I hit the disconnect call button, I'm kicked from the server. Killing the bard in such a gross way, then kicking the player from the server because they weren't okay with the DM basically ganking their character. Worst of all, they didn't even get a cool death. Talked to death by an old man? That's really going to impress the other ghosts. You're automatically the laughingstock of any afterlife. The worst is the DM seemed to be enjoying it. As anyone who has ever played this game knows, it's quite easy to get attached to characters. And when they die, that's a sad and somber time. I've heard of DMs who think it's them against the players. I've even met a few, and nothing good ever comes from it, with the exception of never having to play with that DM again. The events after that were communicated to me via the Ani's player. The DM said that instant deaths like that were on the table, and that they would happen again. The couple were immediately unhappy with this decision and said that if the goat wasn't part of the game, they didn't really have anything else keeping them there. Rocky said he didn't know it was that type of game and left as well. The Oni kept getting the same excuses as to how killing the goat was fair and fine to do. The Oni did the math on the rolls after learning the passing number and communicated that my character only had a 45% chance of making those rolls to avoid instant death. From the goat's official death to the server being empty to players, it was 30 minutes. The whole game that had been going so well up until that one moment had died in 30 minutes. I was pretty much just left with my thoughts after that, but I started to realize some things about that session. It was really lethal. We thought it was just a really tough dungeon, but now that I think about it, everything was designed to kill our character. If we hadn't avoided the venom, some of our down PCs would have instantly died. If we had missed a dex save on those lava pits, I bet it would have been instant death. The two giant mini bosses before we even get into the ruin who did massive numbers that were only softened by me playing my role as a bard well. I was left to wonder, why in the world was he trying so hard to kill us suddenly? And if maybe me preventing so many deaths as our only supportive character made me a target of the DM. The hostility was so sudden. Well, at least I came out of that game with some wonderful artwork and memories of that party. I guess the great part of the DM being reluctant to engage us in role playing is that he's oddly barely in my memories of that game. It really was mostly made by the wonderful players, which is a shame because I don't deny the DM had a wonderful world and interesting story to tell. He even insisted we write complex backstories to implement in the game. I had been working with him for a while on developing the goat into his world. But I guess none of that mattered in the end. Someone had to die, and I guess I was the person he lost patience with. Killing a character and a game in one fateful swoop. This DM was swinging for the fences. What confuses me is the DM ran the game straight for a few months, then all of a sudden declared open season on the PCs? Was it a spur of the moment thing? Or had he been planning it the whole time? I'd love to hear what you think about it. Or just tell me anything. I love getting comments. Likes are likewise appreciated. And you have a story you'd like to see me talk about, I'm always open for those. In any case, thank you so much for watching, and remember, play your character. Don't let your character play you. Or some evil DM.